If you do it with a bail bondsman, they will want 10%.
Oh, I see. So the bail bondsman ponies up to $500,000
in a bond, yes, and they pretty much are the ones.
And the fee for that is
$50,000 because you have to raise 10% of it.
Interesting. Okay.
So
good to know.
Yeah. So on August 21st, after 1 month of incarceration, she was released from the Orange County Jail after her $50,000 bond was posted by the nephew of California bail bondsman Leon Panetta, in hopes she would cooperate and Caylee could be found.
Caylee. One's alive, one's not.
Yes. Both have similar names. On August 11th, 12th, and 13th of 2008, meter reader Roy Kroc called police about a suspicious object found in a forest area near the Anthony residence. In the first instance, he was directed by the sheriff's office to call a tip line, which he did, receiving no return calls. On the second instance, he called the sheriff's office again. Eventually, he was met by 2 police officers and reported to them they had seen what appeared to be a skull near a gray bag. On that occasion, the officer conducted a short search and stated he did not see anything. On December 11th, this is months later, 2008, Kroc again called the police. They searched and found the skull, the remains of a child in a trash bag. Investigating teams discovered duct tape, which is hanging from hair attached to the skull, and some tissue left on the skull. Over the next 4 days, more bones were found in a wooded area near the spot where the remains initially had been discovered. On December 19th, 2008, medical examiner Jan Garavaglia.
That's a tough name. Garavaglia.
Confirmed that the remains found were those of Caylee Anthony.
So in this time that since July, when she was first arrested, all the way until December, Casey's out on bond.
She's out on bond. Yeah.
Or out on bail, I should say.
Yeah. Bond bails. Yeah.
Okay, so what happens next?
She's rearrested, charged with the death is ruled a homicide. The cause of death is listed as undetermined. Caylee was offered a limited immunity deal on July 29th by prosecutors related to the false statements given by law enforcement about locating her child. This was renewed on August 25th to expire August 28th. She did not take it. On September 5th, 2008, she was released again on bail on all pending charges after being fitted with an electronic tracking device. Her $500,000 bond was posted by her parents, Cindy and George Anthony, who signed a promissory note for the bond. On August 14th, 2018, Caylee Anthony was indicted. 2008, Caylee Anthony was indicted by a grand jury on charges of first-degree murder, aggravated child abuse, and aggravated manslaughter of a child on 4 counts of providing false information to police. She was charged with murder on October. They didn't find the body until December.
I see. Okay.
On October 21st, 2008, the charges...
Pause.
Yes.
How did they charge her with murder before they found the body?
They assumed.
It's
happened before.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There's no weapon, there's no body.
There's no weapon, there's no body. It's pretty much everything's leading from what they say, the reasonable doubt that says that this child was murdered.
Okay,
there's been other cases. There's other cases throughout judicial history where people have been charged with murder and there's been no body.
No body and no scene of crime either.
No scene of crime or no murder weapon. OJ, no murder weapon.
Yeah, but there were
2 bodies, but no murder weapon.
Yeah. But it just seems, people go missing, kids go missing. I guess it just seems a little.
But the evidence but the way she's been lying and the fact that she waited 31 days before reporting your child missing, any reasonable person would go, this kid is dead.
No, absolutely, I agree with you. It could be, there's enough evidence with her lying and the kid obviously still being not found and things like this to say that she's guilty of neglect.
Right.
But, you know, just to jump to murder, that seems a bit interesting, but go ahead.
Let's see.
And, like, look, it says aggravated manslaughter of a child. How do they know that? This is
what they give it. This is what the grand jury says the charges are. When they get to actual trial or the pre-trial, they can start dropping some things or adding some things on. But from what the evidence was presented to the grand jury, this is what they came back with.
Just
These
follow the
charges.
timeline, though. Follow the timeline.
Yeah.
From the time that the report goes out to the police that the kid is missing, 31 days after she was actually missing, the only things that have happened is the car has shown up with, you know, what is claimed to be some odors coming from the trunk.
Right.
She lied about a nanny that never watched the kid,
Right.
and she lied about working at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
So between September and October, those are the only revelations in the case.
And the fact she did not report the child missing for 31 days.
I understand that, but like, how do you get aggravated manslaughter out of that? That seems.
We're assuming this kid is dead. This is what grand jury. This is what the state presented a grand jury. This is what the grand jury decided. That's the thing about grand juries. They're secret.
Do you get my point, though?
I get your point,
Like,
but this is what they.
Even if it's to say that, like, she was accused of manslaughter, but to say aggravated manslaughter, how do they know?
From the evidence that they gathered up. I mean, this is the problem. What the police had. They had a woman who pretty much lied about where she was during that time. She lied about her job. She lied about where the kid was. She did not tell anyone, report anything missing for 31 days.
Suspicious, absolutely.
Absolutely suspicious.
100% suspicious, and 100% seems to be in some sort of guilt. But my point is, how do you come up with that charge? Like,
that's what the grand jury came up with. You have to ask the grand jury, in which you can't ask the grand jury because grand juries are in secret. Now, when they get to pretrial motions, the judge could go, or the prosecution could go, we don't got enough. The judge go, you don't got enough evidence for aggravated manslaughter, or you don't have enough evidence for first-degree murder.
In this case, it wouldn't have mattered because 2 months later, the remains were found of the child. So
right.
I guess, you know, in this case, it didn't matter, but it just seems crazy to me that without any concrete evidence or even an alibi.
And not only that, there were strands of hair they found in the trunk of Casey's car that were similar to the hairs taken from Caylee's hairbrush. Also in the trunk. Also, they took a piece of fabric from the trunk to try to see if there was a decomposing body on it.
And they didn't find anything. From what this says.
From what one, we'll get into that in a little bit because that's part of the evidence. From what one expert had said for the prosecution, yeah, there was a decomposing body.
Okay.
So let's get to some of that evidence. 400 pieces of evidence were presented.
Hold on, though, before you get to that. After the grand jury indictment, on April 13th, so this is 4 months after the body was found, the prosecutors announced that they plan to seek
the death penalty. Yeah. 400 pieces of evidence were presented. Strands of hair were covered from the trunk of Casey's car, which was microscopically similar to hairs taken from Casey's hairbrush. The strands showing root branding, in which hair roots form a dark band after death, which is consistent with hair from a dead body. Kronk, who discovered the remains, repeated the same basic story he had told police. On Friday, October 24th, 2018, a forensic report by Abpad Vass of the Oak Ridge National Laboratory judged that results from air sampling procedures called LIMS performed in the trunk of Casey Anthony's car showed chemical compounds consistent with a decomposal event based on the presence of 5 key chemical compounds out of over 400 possible chemical compounds that vast research group considered typical decomposition. Investigators stated that the trunk smelled strongly of human decomposition. but human decomposition was not specific on the laboratory scale. The process has not been affirmed by the Dumont test in courts. Fass's group also stated there was chloroform in the car trunk. That's what one of the things the defense go after, because this is not a really standard scientific procedure to try to prove there was decomposition anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what the defense really goes after in the trial. Because I had never heard of this before. How the fuck can you tell decomposition was left in the car unless there was like a piece of skin in there? But in October 2009, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the thing is with like, as far as I know about certain evidence, chemical evidence that you can find, you can say that these, like, you know, in right here it says 5 key chemical compounds out of 400 possible chemical compounds. It's one of those things where enough chemical evidence could be presented to where you can form that into a narrative, right?
Right.
It's the same. Like, it's the same way how like poppy seeds show up on a drug test.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
You can, if you're trying to ascertain a certain outcome, you can say these chemical compounds, the sum of these things amount to what could be the use of chloroform or things like this. But it could be like, oh, she used bleach to clean a knife or to clean her boots, and then her boots ended up in the trunk, type of thing. You know what I mean? I'm just. But yeah, so.
In October 2009, official released 700 pages of documents related to the Anthony investigation, including records of Google searches of the terms net breaking, how to make chloroform on a computer accessible to Caylee, presented by the prosecutions as evidence of a crime. According to detectives, crime scene evidence include residue of a heart-shaped sticker found on duct tape over the mouth of Caylee's skull. However, the laboratory is not able to capture a heart-shaped photography after some duct tape was subject to dye testing. A blanket was found in the crime scene matched Caylee's bedding at her grandparents' home. Among photos entered in evidence was one from the computer of Ricardo Molanas, an ex-boyfriend Casey Anthony, depicting a poster with the caption, "Win her over with chloroform." Witness John Dennis Bradley's software, developed for computer investigations, was used by the prosecution to indicate that Caylee had conducted extensive computer searches on the word chloroforms 84 times to suggest that Anthony had planned to commit murder. He later discovered that a flaw in the software misread the forensic data, and the word chloroform had searched for one time, and the website in question offered information on the use of chloroform in the 19th century.
Interesting. I mean, regardless, why are you searching the word chloroform on your computer?
Yeah.
Search anyways.
Yeah.
Or neck breaking.
It's just, even after the trial, there was more investigation into that, which we'll get to after the trial. So, the lead prosecutor in the case was Assistant State's Attorney Linda Diane Burek. Assistant State's Attorneys Frank George and Jeff Ashton completed the prosecution team. For the defense, the defense was led by Jose Baez, a Florida criminal defense attorney. Attorneys J. Chidney Mason, Dorothy Clay Sims, and Ann Farrell served as co-counsel, and during the trial, attorney Mark Lippman represented George and Cindy Anthony, who had not been charged with anything, but
just in case.
Yeah. Got any thoughts so far?
No. I mean, the evidence that you went over is pretty interesting. It's just talking about setting up of the court case that I'm sure you're about to get into with opening statements here.
Yeah, jury selection began May 9th, 2011 in Passaic County Criminal Justice Center in Clearwater, Florida. Because the case had been so widely reported in the Orlando area, they're afraid they weren't going to